20 seconds to score. I ignite the demo to open up midfield. Metanaris high off the backboard. He scores with 14 seconds left. TSM tie in the game.
Gimmick turns this one around. Challenge from Classics is good. Squishy now passing up to Gimmick, looking back across to Squishy, finds the shot back in. Cloud9's pass plays always immaculate as they get their lead up to 3.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Esports in 30, the show where we take a deep dive into your favorite esports. Now it's Thursday, I'm here, Nick's here, and that could mean only one thing. It's time for Rocket League.
Sweet.
Now, I can't believe, dude, we are already past the halfway mark.
Yeah, we don't have any locked-in playoff teams, locked-in relegation teams, but next week for sure. And this one, it seems like the picture's becoming clear.
All right, well, we've only got 30 minutes, so I think we need to get into it. Plus, I think our guest is patiently waiting by on the phone, and I don't want to make him wait, or you guys wait any longer. While we set up, check out these highlights from Week 3 of the NA RLCS.
See if anything can come of this. AXB down to the NRG corner. Shot coming in. Garrett couldn't make the save. Jump off the wall to get the shot. Fireburner going for a double tap. And he hits the double tap. Fireburner. Chance for Karma. And again off the crossbar.
At blocking the clear.
Kronovi going for the bump. Paving the way for AJ.
Gimmick turns this one around. Challenge from Classics is good. Squishy now passing up to Gimmick, looking back across to Squishy, finds the shot back in. Keeps the power on it too, so it's back to midfield. It's Gimmick.
Oh,
no. You're kidding. What just, are you kidding? No.
Corrupted drops this one down, dripping, now having to rotate back. Gimmick gets it up above him, and Classics and Nell get bumped by Gimmick. Squishy will send in the goal, a perfect play. Cloud9's got the lead. Rizzo now through the air, finds the double tap and in, the nail in the coffin.
Just make sure to get away from your teammate there. Pass to the top, Chicago will finish it. J-Naps with the command right next to the back wall.
8 minutes and 11 seconds of overtime, quite a lengthy one.
Still Rogue starting to swing things their way. AJ under this ball gets a touch out to the right. Corbin can't do it. AJ making a miss off the side, and Rogue tie the game.
AJ gets his flip back, goes and hits it with the underside of his car.
AJ's able to hop back and make a save, just wastes more time. Cloud9 score again, time expires, and in 4 games, NRG, the whole Big Three remain undefeated.
You said it, Jarby. The Big Three were unstoppable again in Week 3, and rightfully they lead the pack with clean records. Then a long ways behind is the rest of the field: Space Station Gaming, Rogue, Splice, Evil Geniuses, and finally Ghost. Now, while Nick and I could go it alone today, we just don't want to.
I'm super lazy.
So I figured we could call up the master of gunners himself. It's Michael Achieves Williams. What's up, buddy?
I'm doing well, man. How are you?
Good, and you?
Not so bad.
Nailed it. Perfect. Well, let's just jump in, of course. We saw there's a big gap, of course, between the top and the bottom end. But even so, in the top 3 right now between, NRG, C9, and G2, with G2 kind of trailing at the end, do you think it's a big 3, or is it more of like kind of a terrible 2 situation?
I said it at the start. I think NRG's going 7-0. I think they're top 1, and then everyone else is kind of below them. But G2 currently, the best part, they don't have the game differential, but they are still 4-0. I mean, they're only behind 3 games because both Cloud9 and NRG, are both at 12-2. So the only real difference is game differential between them. They've got Splice this week and NRG, so obviously I don't think they take down NRG. But in weeks 5, they might be able to take down Cloud9. Maybe they go 6-1 and take a top 2 spot. But I'm feeling pretty good about G2's chances making top 4.
You on board with that?
Yeah, it seems pretty fair to me. So one of the things I noticed with NRG is that when they're playing a worse team, they switch to like a more textbook play style where they really, play a little bit more back and punish midfield mistakes. Whereas Cloud9, when they're playing a worse team, they kind of just do Cloud9. Do you see that as maybe like a potential weakness in Cloud9's game where they don't have that same level of flexibility, or they're not willing to be a little bit more flexible in their play style? And would you maybe like to see Cloud9 slow down a bit and play more punish style against a team that is on paper worse than them?
Personally, I don't really see any reason to, because a lot of times speed is the most valuable thing if we're not talking about like the boost and resources that allow you to do that. Cloud9 is undoubtedly one of the fastest teams in the world. I don't think there's too many reasons to slow that down and give people an opportunity to break out. Cloud9 are more than capable of punishing any mistakes that people make. It's just that sometimes they don't let it happen fast enough and maybe wait for a bad touch. What's the best thing about them is that they're really good at reading where people are going to put the ball. Like the past couple of weeks, you just seen Squishy parked on the sidewall being like, don't clear it here, and then they'll put it right at him, and then they get punished. So it's like, it's less about Cloud9 needing to slow down, and as long as they keep up their solid understanding of what people are doing, their natural mechanical ability will just win them the game. And, you know, it stands well in the standings. They're 12-2, so, I mean, I don't think there's any reason for them to change too much.
Now, I want to talk about the two of the newer teams. First, we'll start with Space Station Gaming. They are looking so much better than their counter-rival team in Splice. They just don't look intimidated. They look like they're playing their game. I'm just wondering, is it enough for them? Have we seen them at their peak? Are they kind of where they'll be, and that's just this is them?
I mean, I like Space Station. We said it back in DreamHack. You know, they're probably the strongest North American team to ever come out of the rival series, and they definitely do look solid. But of course, the reverse sweep by G2 back in week 1 really did start off the season in a sour note. I don't think you've seen the peak of Space Station Gaming yet, because they've really had a fairly front-loaded schedule. I mean, they've had to play G2, Cloud9, and they've still got they play G2 and NRG. They play Cloud9 this week. And so after that, then they'll play Splice and Rogue. And that's a pretty good opportunity for them to at least secure a top 6 spot. I definitely think Space Station Gaming can do a little bit more. Obviously, you know, that shooting accuracy is still plaguing them here and there. But every now and again, the fact that they're able to keep pace with everybody bodes really well, and that's one of the biggest problems a lot of the rival series teams have had is being able or being unable to respond on defense effectively to some of the high pressure you get put on in the RLCS.
Speaking of players on defense, there a player that Brody and I both really are high on, and not just because he's Canadian, is AXB. I see a lot of potential in this guy. He's a tremendous player. What's your read on AXB in terms of his two-way play? Because he seems really solid on defense and also has that offensive eye as well.
Yeah, so AXB, again, he strikes me a very mechanically gifted player. Used to play with him back in the day, fun fact, but that's because he was way too good. But AXB is definitely a very strong player in terms of anywhere. And the reason that is because his mechanics are so good. If you have to twist to make a weird save or something in a bad spot, AXB is perfectly capable of doing it. Same thing goes with putting balls in the back of the net, able to get that angle from anywhere, get power on the ball. He's very good at doing that, and that stems from, again, that mechanical excellence that he's cultivated.
Now, before we talk about Splice, we got to talk about someone that we've known for a very long time, the Mountain himself, Kronovi. Obviously, moving over to Rogue now. It seems like he's fitting in pretty well. Like I'm liking what I'm seeing. A lot of people were questioning if he was going to be the right fit. I think maybe it was more of a question of did he replace the right person. But Kronovi looks like he's fitting in right.
I actually am very surprised with Rogue as well, and I wasn't too sure about the move with Kronovi because it was like, oh, that's weird that G2 kicked Kronovi and they got a different person, and he ended up on Rogue of all places. But I wasn't super jazzed about this team coming into the season because their offseason was just atrocious. And so I was pleasantly surprised to be like, oh, they're playing close games against people in the top 4. And now in the last couple weeks of the season, they've got Ghost. Obviously, they still have to play RNG, which I'm not expecting them to win that. But they've got Space Station, which is a winnable game, and Ghost, which is another winnable game. So Rogue, a pleasant surprise. And Kronovi, I think, definitely has brought a little bit of... what's the word I want?
Leadership?
Leadership is a good word, but it's like there's a dynamic that he's brought, and it's like, okay, guys, we need to make sure we shore up the bigger issues we have before we even think about winning games. And the fact that they accomplished that in the short weeks before league play started after DreamHack is quite impressive.
So we do need to move on to Splice here because they have kind of looked broken since that initial really bad loss to NRG. They had a moment where they could have scored a goal early on game 1, and it just has not been there ever since. Accuracy, like we mentioned with SSG, possibly a huge issue for these guys. However, Brody thinks that this team's potential is a lot higher than what we've been seeing them out of them in league play.
I do think so.
Agree, disagree?
Well, first, I want to hear Brody's opinion. Why do you think that?
I've seen what these guys can do. I've seen, back in the day, we've seen Nose Dude pop off, carrying NRG when he was subbing at one point. We've seen some of the crazy plays Karma can make on offense. I've seen them work together. I've seen them make incredible passing plays. And I'm just, sometimes it feels like there's half there, and then they just fall apart. Like one thing breaks, and they lose all of that. But so I think the potential's there. There's a composure issue.
So I will agree that yes, they are a very strong team with teamwork, and there is some potential there. The problem is the execution is very lacking over on Splice. I said it back at DreamHack. I went on a whole tirade about it. It's like, look, Splice, you looked fantastic in the rival series. You dominated your opponents. You got the passing plays. You were like, we have some of the best team chemistry out there. Here's the problem. Everybody in RLCS is just as good as that as you guys, and they do it better. Because everyone's seen a pass play 1,000 times in the RLCS. They can have all the chemistry in the world. At that point, it comes down to execution. And Splice doesn't have the best execution I've ever seen. And that's why they struggle so much. And thinking about who they still play, G2. I don't think they win that. Chicago's too good in the midfield.
Oh, I didn't say I think they're going to win it.
Well, it's like even against a team like Space Station, their other team coming out of the rival series. I think Space Station is more than capable of putting way too much pressure on Splice, just considering how they've played in this season. I don't see Splice being able to really avoid relegation again.
Now, we're almost out of time for North America, but I guess quick thought. Do you think Ghost is going to have a chance?
Well, they play Space Station, Rogue, and Evil Geniuses. I think their best chance might come from Rogue. I don't know. Okay. Ghost have had a not a good go of things, to say the least. And you know, there was a bunch of stuff on Reddit about what people thought, and I'm not sure which parts of it are correct, but there is definitely issues in the midfield and being able to support your teammates in that area of it. And that's one of the most important things in Rocket League. Whenever you have the ball, everybody needs to be on the same page on offense. If nobody's on the same page on offense, then you have people trying to accomplish different tasks, and nobody's going to be in the right spot. And that has led Ghost to a very strong 0-4, 3-12 game record.
So one of the questions I saw posted on Reddit actually was that Seabass is sitting on the bench for Ghost, and given the problems that the team has had potentially around Lucian and his kind of awkward defensive touches in some cases, that kind of opened up the bigger question for me is, are subs underutilized in RLCS as it stands right now? Because you've got Jacob on Splice, Epic John on NEG, Seabass on Ghost, and should these guys maybe get a little bit more playtime if the team is struggling as badly as, say, Ghost and Splice are?
Well, let's think about that, because there's Jacob on Splice, sure, and Jacob we haven't really seen too much of in the competitive scene for a while now. So maybe if Jacob is really putting in the time off camera, you could maybe make an argument for him to replace somebody. Who it would be, though, I'm not sure. So if you think subs are underutilized, it really comes down to you have to weigh the benefits. Like, let's take who we're talking about, Ghost. We have Seabass and Illusion. They both played on the same team over on Allegiance. They both had fairly similar stat lines, but you have to ask yourself, all right, if we swap out Seabass swap out Illusion for Seabass, what are we really getting? And the answer you're not too positive on, because
actual touches on defense?
Well, yeah, Seabass can make a few of those, but it's not like Illusion has been making the worst touches in the world. Yes, they're not good, but is your offensive output equal with Seabass? And right now, the offensive output isn't good. So do you want to take a chance? Maybe, but the chemistry is far more important to teams than I think the perceived value of what you would get out of a player just on a snapshot picture. I mean, Seabass might bring more defensive stability, maybe, but also maybe not. And why take that risk when you need to focus on just winning the last few games of the season to try and avoid that 7-8 slot?
I guess if you're this deep in, you may as well just go for it, right? But anyways, Cheese, that pretty much well covers North America, but there's a whole other region that, of course, I guess we got to give some love to. So we're going to dive into the European RLCS just as soon as you fuel up with these highlights.
Now looking for Fruity. Can he get it back to his teammate? Looking for the shot. Airborne in 1-2.
Oh, no.
Tie game. Drastically different from when they play on match point. Ronicky with a shot.
On the money.
Plays over and over again. Yesterday, a record-setting overtime.
8 minutes and
11 seconds.
Yeah.
Well,
that one won't be that long.
Oh my goodness, Fairy Peak ends it in style. Look at this mid-air redirect deflection, whatever you want to call it. Look at that. Oh my goodness.
Getting beat here by iignite, another challenge win from iignite, and a 50-50 there, but Alpha staying in the play. Big stop from him.
A team like TSM seems a little bit more teamwork orientated, so I'm curious how this matchup will play out. And Evo coming in with a ceiling shot.
That's challenge. Ignite off the backward to Metza. Metza towards net.
Alpha.
And Alpha just hitting the brake. To the side, Ignite in the air. Double tap chance.
The
and
freestyle. We just saw a lot of solo plays, but Yukio has been a reactive player.
And Yukio, look at this. He telegraphs the pass into the middle, but ends up going for the shot.
The patience. Did you see him stutter a little bit? It's almost like he's waiting for the perfect time.
Again, well defended by Scrub Killer. K-Dop downfield. He wins the challenge in midfield, and he takes it himself. K-Dop scores. Metzenaris back to Ignite. Shot on. Scrub Killer rolls it out. Ignite the demo to open up midfield. Metzenaris high off the backboard. He scores with some space and time. But an opening K-Dop to Scrub. Score! Vitality!
V for victory indeed, as Vitality remains flawless atop the EU table. But they can't breathe easy just yet, with TSM only a few wins behind them and a crowded middle of the table out for their blood. And of course, Dignitas, Bricks, and Mouse in a race to avoid relegation. Chiefs, let's start with what we've seen the past couple weeks with Vitality. My goodness, are they looking good?
Boy, are they. They've only dropped 2 games, which is in and of itself amazing, and they've done it in 5 games, unlike Cloud9 and NRG over in North America. So the best part about that is they've already done it against the entire top of the table, and Vitality finishes with games against Mouse and Triple Trouble. So there's a very real chance that they just win those out and they go, 21-2, which would be monstrous in Europe.
I believe that would be a record for the RLCS, if
Yes.
I'm not mistaken.
It's record then. Oh.
Yeah, Dig went 21-4, I think, off the top of my head. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, that'd be insane. Can we say they're officially the best team in the world at this point?
You got to see them at land first against everybody else before you say that, because I think probably the cleanest win through everything we saw was Gale Force back in Season 5 at the finals. So they kind of swept the table in that regard, and probably I would still give it to them for now. But Vitality, depending on how hard they continue to crush people in the live environment, then I will be willing to consider it.
So
they're not going for it, Dignitas, whatever.
I want to quickly touch on PSG because they had an up and down week. They got 1 win, but then they also got reverse swept by Triple Trouble, making them officially the most reverse swept team in RLCS history. So. Doucet and Farah, they go up 2 games and all of a sudden they're just, oh God, not again.
I mean, we've said it before during the offseason, PSG is that team that I want to do well so bad because they're 3 people who absolutely deserve it. They're 3 of the greatest people I know. And it really is unfortunate to see them consistently struggle to close out a game like that, because their win versus Dignitas where they went 3-0 and just crushed them, I was like, that's the PSG you should be seeing every week. That's the PSG that you know can take on anybody, anywhere, at any time. And it just doesn't happen over and over again. And they've got a fairly tough end of the league play coming. They have 1 game against Mouse, which isn't going to be a freebie considering how Mouse has stepped up. They have TSM, who is historically fairly difficult to score goals on. And then Barcelona, who is just 3 amazing individual playmakers. So PSG, good luck.
That's a new emote from that right there.
That was the exasperation of a man who wants the team to do so well, but they keep letting him down.
Yeah,
I just can't. I'm like, it's so sad because they're so good, but then they're just not.
Yeah. Speaking of a team that's so good but doesn't show that potential till too late, the Bricks. I mean, like, we've always kind of seen the situation where they go in an upswing later on in a season, but is it too late now? Because again, they also have a tough schedule ahead of them.
Yeah, I definitely think they got the short end of the stick here. Dignitas had a bad start, but they picked it up last week, and depending how Week 4 goes versus Triple Trouble, that Week 5 looks real tough, because the Bricks have Week 5 versus TSM and Dignitas. So 2 teams that are going to be a rough go for them as well, and Speed's really going to have to figure out a way to get some goals in the back of the board. And their game versus Barcelona this week, again, a fairly tough matchup. So the Bricks, what are they at right now? 1-3?
Yep.
Very real chance they go 1-6 and end up in relegation.
Ouch. I don't see them getting relegated.
Can you imagine Cooks here getting relegated?
He won't get relegated. It's Cooks
in
here.
your mind.
He won't.
No, I can't imagine it, but I would unfortunately believe it.
So one of the things that you mentioned before that I quickly want to go back on is you mentioned FCB is, when you were listing the other teams, you're saying, this is a great team. TSM is always strong. FCB, 3 great individual players. And it seemed from the games this week and maybe last week as well, that might be an issue with them where they're playing more as individuals. They're going for a lot of air dribbles, a lot of double touches, and less passes. Is that maybe a tonic that could help FCB kind of get out of this awkward position they put themselves in towards the back end of the season?
Oh, it's kind of interesting because, again, I consider Barcelona and Cloud9 to be 2 fairly similar teams in how they approach the game. I think it's a good approach as long as you can execute on it. Again, I think if Cloud9's operating 100%, they're the best team in the world. Nobody's going to beat them. The problem is you can't do it every time. And Barcelona, I think they do it almost as well. Because remember, they played at DreamHack, and Barcelona stomped Cloud9. And so can Barcelona do it all the time? I don't think so, because they've already struggled a little bit versus other teams like Vitality, who just shut it down because they can do it even better, because they have 3 great people who are great at doing individual effort plays as well. So Barcelona, do I think they need to change? I don't think so, just because that's the dynamic of the team. Like I said against Cloud9, you don't want to just take a complete departure from how you approach the game just to try and force a win. There's natural tendencies that every player has in how they approach the game. That's Barcelona's way. It either works or it doesn't, and honestly, you can only analyze it in the moment.
You just got to feed Devo whatever he ate last week again. Like that.
He popped up.
Nuts. He went nuts. But we'd have to talk Dig, of course, finally getting their first win. I'm wondering if you think this is enough of a confidence boost for Yukio to get in the game. He's had some issues with the crossbar before. Or do you think it laid on him, or was it just the whole team that was kind of like, what's going on?
That whole team early on in the season was the fattest yikes I've ever seen. It's like, hang on a second, what happened here? You can't win DreamHack and look pretty decent doing it and then just tank the start of the season. So not entirely sure what happened there. But they did manage to bounce back a clean 3-0 win versus Mouse. They only allowed 1 goal the entire series, so Dignitas, that's like, okay, good, you figured it out, but now you need to come back here and rinse and repeat, and you need to do the exact same thing for Triple Trouble, because you need all the game differential help you can get, because the best they can do is what? They can go 4-3 if they manage to win out. Yeah, they'd have to go 4-3 because they have to beat Triple Trouble, then they have to beat the Bricks, and then they have to beat TSM. And I think Triple Trouble is probably the easiest matchup out of those.
Well, you just mentioned them. We can move on to that team. Triple Trouble, still rough around the edges, but it seems to me like they never give up on a game or they never give up on a series. Playoff team, yes, no?
No.
Oh, okay.
Simple answer. No.
Well, they just have a terrible end of the season. They play Vitality, who's stomped everybody. Yeah. They play Dignitas, who apparently has woken up, and that's definitely not going to be an easy game. And then they play Barcelona, who's just going to try and smother them into their own half. It's 3 very tough games to close out the season. And Triple Trouble, yes, you never give up, but I'm just not sure they have it in them to beat those 3 teams.
To be fair, we have seen teams make the playoffs at 2 wins before, like Mal's last season did it at 2 wins. Triple Trouble's already got 2 wins, but you really are not confident that this is enough.
Well, it's just because I feel Dignitas is good enough, or at least what they showed last week versus Maus can pull them out of that 7-8 spot despite the game differential. And that, again, is probably going to be the biggest deciding factor about who makes 7-8 in Europe, is that game differential. I feel if Dignitas plays well versus Triple Trouble, they give themselves a good chance in week number 5. Maus as well, they're not too far behind Triple Trouble. They're 6-10 compared to Triple Trouble's 7-10. So really anywhere 4 through 7 is pretty close in terms of game differential and could really shift a lot in between weeks 4 and 5.
All right, Achilles, too much focus on players. Who cares about them anyway? It's time to put the focus on you. We got some fan questions in our last few minutes here that we did get off the socials to throw your way. So if you're ready, let's jump into it. First off, we got to go to actually our homeboy Lafui. He was on Reddit and he asked, what have been the biggest surprises that countered the research that you had to do as a caster on how teams have been performing?
It definitely has to be Maus and Rogue. Touched on it a little bit already. Those 2 teams, awful off seasons, and I was expecting, at best 1-6 out of them. Of course, it could still end up that way, but they've looked much better doing it than I gave them credit for. So I think Maus and Rogue were 2 extremely pleasant surprises. And also, I must say, Vitality. I didn't think they were just going to walk out here and stomp the field. I mean, they looked good at DreamHack, and I was like, okay, that's a team in top 4 contention. and now they're just crushing everybody. So I think those are the big three that really have surprised me.
Greg had made me a believer in Vitality, and they've been paying off. PXL Buzzard on Reddit asks, what is the biggest challenge working on RLCS versus previous casting jobs?
You know, if I had to say the biggest challenge is probably having to get up early in the morning and then listening to James freestyle rap every morning. And then it's just like, you know, James, now's not the time, but I'm glad you did that.
That's brilliant. I love the color. See, I thought that was going my way, like having to work with Leaf. That would have been...
I like you too much, Brody.
Brody gets a lot of flack on this show, so he's just always prepared for it.
Yeah, I'm ready now. On that topic, Jorby jumped into the questions too. Another of one of our co-casters. He asked, "Who is the better rapper, you or James Bot?" Yes, I just bashed James Bot about his freestyle raps every morning, but I must say, he's a creative dude, and I think in terms of originality, it definitely has to go to James Bot. In terms of pure technical ability, I will say myself, and I will call it a draw. Now, finally, this last one isn't a question, but Adam Hippo on Reddit just wants to say that he matched with you in standard play last night, and you signed his profile, and it just made his night. You're the man, he said. So
well, you're welcome, Adam. It was a pleasure. I actually remember that game, so very well done, because that was just 2 days ago, and thankfully my mind goes back that far. But it was a good game, man. Thank you.
All right, love's in the chat. You look at GG's. I like it. Anyways, with that, we got to let you go, man, but I'll be seeing you soon, and thanks for calling into the show.
Thank you so much. Have a good time, guys. Appreciate it.
Love my man Achieves. Also, the most recent member in the I've joined the field in the RLCS.
I really appreciated his dab bow combo.
Bab?
Let's go with Bab.
It was beautiful. Anyways, Nick, we got about like a minute or two left, and I know that you've had a couple issues with some of the items the players have been using recently, so you have the floor.
So first of all, you get these amazing esports skins, and then you're not going to wear them, really. Guys, come on, help me out here.
You gotta look good. They got their cars, man.
But it's also sometimes it's like on TSM it was like Ignite's got his.
Yeah.
And Mets has got his. Remco does not using his. What's with that?
Yeah,
you trying to be cool?
Yeah, I'm a cool kid. I'm the leader.
Yeah. And the other one was the puff explosion. I know
it's amazing.
Brody loves it. Achieves loves it. I hate it. I stopped ruining my highlight packs with this anticlimactic nonsense. It's horrible.
Yeah, that's the only reason is because you don't know what a goal's going. I love it.
I'm super biased.
At the end, you know what I want? I want the game-winning goal to be scored with the poof explosion in RLCS Season 7 World Finals. Game-winning goal. I want it upside down. Imagine the Justin goal had the poof thing.
No, it'd be so anticlimactic.
No, it's like, that's why it's good, because it's anticlimactic. Climactic. Whatever. It's good. You're wrong.
Oh, Brody.
Anyways, you had a meme you wanted to bring up.
I did.
Call out the casters.
So casters, there was the one meme Monday on the esports subreddit, which was a player rotates more than 180 degrees. Is this freestyling? And thankfully, Brody here, his immediate defense was,
I'm not a caster anymore. You can't call me out on that one. Straight up though, I think the only one I saw recently was Turtle.
He's new.
But he also called him, so we have to be fair to him. He did call himself out and say, you know what? That wasn't really freestyle. He actually had to turn to get that. Yeah. I do like that.
But he's also new.
Well, yeah, but he's a player. He should know. Yeah, no defense for him. Anyways, we got to put the brakes on this like Alpha did in that game, because it's game over for us. Thank you, Achieves, for calling in, and thank you all at home for turning your eyeballs our way and watching this show. And if you want to watch some more esports nonsense, we're back tomorrow for FPS Friday with Zurich and Marissa. Till then, here's a generic social shill for @SquadState. Peace.